Hi there everybody. On today's video I have this E39 5 series, and I have an intermittent problem with that little with the gearbox light that comes, that little gear light there. Not very visible at the moment, so it's basically the one with the little rings. It looks like a gear, and what's been happening is that occasionally it stays on, so my gearbox goes into limp mode, and I had a look at the fault code, and the fault code is telling me that there is something going on with the range sensor. Now this car has been parked for a very long period of time, so it could be that it's just got some moisture inside. So doing a little bit of investigation, many people are recommending to remove it and clean it. So that's what I'm going to do, and see if that helps this intermittent issue. It comes on maybe once a week or so, and then I have to switch off the car, wait a minute or so, and then switch it on again, and then the light disappears. But it is a bit annoying, so I'll look into that now. In this part of the video I have the sensor. So that is the position sensor, and we have some of those nuts that need to be removed. So that is a 13 mil. That's a 13 mil there that I already undone. You just need to take it out, and you will be able to remove the linkage that is holding that wire. That wire comes from the gearbox knob to select the gears, and you can remove it and just place it to one side. We're also gonna have some 10 mil spanners to remove, but I'm just fitting the nut in there so I don't misplace it. So that bolt there is a 10 mil bolt, and there's two of those that need to be removed. So you can go ahead and remove the two 10 mil bolts, and with that we'll hopefully be able to loosen the sensor. Also we will need to unplug the electrical connection. Okay, so now we need to remove the sensor. So just turn the sensor anti-clockwise to unplug it from the sensor side, and then there's a 10 mil bolt holding the sensor cable in place. So just loosen that bolt, and then you can undo it. So once you undo it, just let the sensor hang, and don't lose the bolt, obviously. But next we're gonna undo that 13 mil bolt that holds that linkage in place. It needs to be loosened so we can release the sensor, because that linkage is connected to the gearbox inside, and it changes the gears. So I'm just turning it all the way to the back, and then you can undo the bolt. That particular linkage can only fit one way, so because the shape it is a type of oval shape or a rectangular, and it can only go back in the way it came out, so you cannot really get it in the wrong place. So just remove the 13mm bolt, nut, and then you will have to pull that linkage out. So I used a screwdriver to pull the sensor out, and here's the sensor, and we're gonna need to drill those rivets. There's a few of those, so we're gonna drill them out. Now I have the sensor here.
This week.
I have a drill bit, and
I have to go back.
I'm just gonna, I think you can go in stages, so you can use a small drill bit to begin with, and then move to a slightly larger one.
But you have to talk to me.
I think even though the drill is blocking the view, the drill bit I use is a little bit on the larger side, so I kind of changed it at a later point to a slightly smaller one.
That's why he's going.
So I can drill down a little bit more.
So also I had to say,
but,
my grandma.
I don't know if this drill was too large or it was exactly the size of the hole.
100 years old.
But
100 years
I was
old?
able to drill those rivets and take them out. And that's the idea of what we need to do.
I think you're gonna...
Okay, so I used the drill, and then I used a punch, like a chisel, but it's a punch to get the rivets out. They were a little bit tight in there. Then I managed to open the sensor, and as you can see, those are the contacts there. That they don't really seem too bad, but there could be a little bit of moisture or something that occasionally makes the gearbox think there's something wrong, and it doesn't know where the gear is. And you can also pull that little arm out, and you can see those contacts there. I'm going to open those contacts a little bit with a screwdriver, so they can also, I can make sure that they touch those other contacts. But we're gonna clean that, all of that anyway. There is a little bit of grease in there. I'm just using some electrical cleaning fluid. That fluid is for electrical plugs and things. So I just apply in there, and then just with a bit of rag or some paper, clean it as much as you can. Maybe mainly if there's any water or anything that is not really visible as such, but it could be in there.
which occasionally causes the problem. If this obviously doesn't solve the problem, then we're gonna have to probably replace this sensor, but this sensor is not cheap. From BMW is around 260 pounds, I think is what they said. And maybe you can source it from other places, but I found it a little bit difficult to find, unless anybody else knows where to find this. Maybe you can let me know, but I couldn't really find many sources. So anyway, I spent a little bit of time just cleaning it as much as I can, and then we're gonna put it back together. I'm gonna open the contacts a little bit with a screwdriver, and I'm going to close this sensor with some I'm gonna try to rivet it back together, or I may need to use some nuts and bolts. I don't know if I have the right size, but I'll have to look for those and then see how we can do it, because I need to get this car off the ramp anyway, as I have another vehicle coming tomorrow. Okay, so now I close the sensor and I'm gonna put a couple of rivets, and then I'm gonna use some self-tapping screws. So once I discovered the rivets I put were not really long enough, I decided to put some 8 mil self-tapping screws. They were actually quite the right size, but perhaps you can use some nuts and bolts. Really, they will work better. So I think once I get this is temporary for me, because I need to get the car out of the ramp. But if you're able to find the right size screw to fit through that little hole, and a little nut, then that will keep the sensor closed, quite nicely closed and tightly closed. These were quite good actually. They're not bad at all. They're self-tapping into the plastic side of the sensor, and they're keeping it quite tightly closed as well. It's not really that bad, but it just doesn't look as tidy as it could. Not that anyone's looking under the car, but it's just depends of your preferences really. So if you find I'm sure there is the right size bolt and nut to close those a bit more aesthetically nicely. So it's really choice or preference. So I'm just applying a little bit of grease there to the center part, which connects to the gearbox pin that comes out of the gearbox, and just applying a little bit of grease to the ends of the screws there so they don't get corroded in the meantime. Okay, so we're back at the side of the gearbox here now, under the car, and we can fit the sensor back. So I'm just plugging in the little clips that hold the cable in place. These two little metal clips that come out the side, and then we can put our sensor into that pin. And again, it can only fit one way because it's got one flat side, and the other side is got the little lines, the little grooves, so it can only go in one way. And then again, we can put our linkage. That linkage we'll need to screw back on, 13mm. It can only fit one way. And then we'll turn it all the way to the front or left, tighten the nut. Don't have to over tighten it, it's just a simple nut, small. And again, also we can put the 10mm bolts to secure the sensor in. So it's all just a matter of refitting that sensor back, and then we'll get back to the car. And well, if we didn't make it worse, then we're not gonna have any lights in the dash. And if all is okay, then we'll be testing. Hopefully that light doesn't come back after the cleaning. So the car is down now, and you can just see. So that's the little light. Well, it's going off, so that's a good sign. There's no other lights that come on, and just make sure that everything is so everything seems to be working like before, but I'm gonna have to check the car in the next week or two, and then I can report back to whether that little gearbox light comes back on or not, and if this cleaning of the sensor, that position sensor, is actually a success or not. So in the end, I hope this video helps and at least shows you how to remove that sensor if you need to change it, in any case, if cleaning doesn't help. So thanks for watching.